Sorry, dear, but today I have to work late. I won't be able to go to the dance. Oh, Mike, what a pity. I even bought a new dress, especially for you. Why don't you go? Alone? Well, John and Cheryl are coming. You can ask them to take you. John was a linebacker, so I'm sure he can take care of you. Cheryl is pregnant, so she won't drink. I'm sure John will have a few dances saved for you, and I think there are some single men out there who would love to dance with you. I heard. They will take their neighbors Kim and Beverly with them. These bitches will get all the attention. Nobody wants to dance with an old married lady. Karen, you're not old at all. You are very attractive. Kim and Beverly are single, so there's nothing wrong with them meeting guys and even going to their house. I'm sure you'll find plenty of men who'd love to hug you for a few dances. Are you sure you're okay with this? Be careful and make sure that John and Cheryl are not lost from sight for more than a few minutes. I trust you. Now go have some fun. Okay, darling. I love you. Well, it will certainly be better than staying at home. I called John and he agreed to take me. I had dinner and got ready. Not bad. 35 years old, but still youthful. Black, shoulder-length hair that frames her face and sets off her blue eyes. My new dress really flattered my slender figure, ending just above the knee and showing a little more cleavage than usual. My breasts are small, but still very firm, so I can wear a very thin, barely noticeable bra. I know I can't compete with the 23-year-old twins who will be coming with us. But it's normal. It's just dancing, I told myself, and I'll go home to my husband. Just at that moment, John's car pulled up. 2 bitches. They moved and I sat down. Okay, I knew they didn't bitches. Just young, beautiful, and full of life. I smiled at them. You are dressed to kill. Our table will definitely not lack male attention. Could you leave some for me? They laughed and Beverly said, Karen, you look amazing yourself. Don't worry, today you are one of us. We got to the club and sat down at a table. John, thank you very much for bringing me. I know Mike would never have let me come if you hadn't been looking out for me. The way you look tonight, I'd love to babysit you. John teased. What would you like to drink, lady? We ordered drinks and John went to get them. The orchestra was just getting ready, and 3 men approached our table. The 2, who looked to be in their 20s, began chatting with Beverly and Kim. The 3rd introduced himself to me as Justin. We talked for a bit, and I found him very charming. A little older than me, perhaps, but attractive and very fit. The 2 young men seemed to be competing with each other for the girls' attention. Kim stood up. Guys, we'll be right back. Karen and Beverly, I need to go to the ladies' room. Went? We got up and followed her. We need to do something to organize the boys, Kim said, closing the door to the ladies' room. I only want to dance with Bill. This is fine? That suits me just fine, Beverly said. I think I like Robert, but how can we leave the boys without a choice? It's a pity that we are not identical twins. Then they wouldn't care, Kim laughed. Then she clapped her hands and said, I'll give Bill my panties. I will tell him that he must return them to me. But whether it will be tonight or tomorrow morning depends on how he behaves. She put her hand under her short skirt and pulled off her panties. We all burst out laughing. This could work, Beverly chuckled. She reached under her dress and pulled down her panties. I'll give mine to Robert. What about you, Karen? You don't want Justin to feel left out. Beverly, I'm a married woman, I laughed. I can't do this. In any case, Justin will not agree to this. He knows he won't take me home. Oh, Karen, live a little. Renew your limits. He's unlikely to refuse. Be young today, Karen. Try it. You girls are so bad. I pulled off my panties and put them in my hand. Okay, I'll try. But Kim, your skirt is a little short. Don't do too many spins. It's not that short. And my panties are thongs. They weren't covering much anyway. We all laughed and headed towards the exit. The orchestra started playing and I walked up to Justin. Will you dance this dance with me? It's a great honor for me. When we walked onto the landing, I put my panties in his hand. Don't look. Just put it in your pocket. What is this? These are my panties, I whispered as we started dancing. He raised his eyebrows questioningly. The girls wanted the boys to stop quarreling over who would dance with whom. Therefore, each gave the panties to one. The deal is that they must return them on demand, either tonight or, if they play their cards right, tomorrow morning. Justin laughed. And will I get the same? Unfortunately, no. I'm afraid you drew the short straw. I'm not going to cheat on my husband. John will take me home. If you want, return them and try your luck elsewhere. Karen, I'm older than these children. I don't look for the bill every night. I'm holding a beautiful woman. She is a wonderful dancer with a charming personality. If I can dance with her all evening, I will consider it one of my best dances in a long time. Thank you, Justin. You are very kind, but I still feel sorry for you. There are many more beautiful women here. You can find better. I disagree. I'll tell you what. I usually behave like a real gentleman, but if you feel like you owe it to me to make amends, let me be a little more direct than usual. What are you talking about? Nothing that could be confusing, like maybe I'll hug you a little tighter, like this, and if you're uncomfortable, just tell me, and I'll stop. I'll tell you. Will you stop right now? And I promised my husband that I would never leave John's sight for more than a few minutes. Everything is fine. You are in control. I promise I will never let the word no pass me by. Agreed. Okay, I grinned, hugging him tighter to me. I think it could be fun. We had been dancing quite close to our table, but now he danced with me to the other side of the room. He smiled and asked, "Are these really your panties?" I laughed. "You can check and see." "Okay," he said. He lowered his right hand to my ass and began to slowly caress it. I squeaked quietly. "I don't think that's what I meant." "Maybe not, but my way is better." "Yes, I don't feel any panty lines." He continued to gently stroke my ass and lightly squeezed my buttock. I pressed myself into his hand. "You are very meticulous." "I need to make sure," returning his hand to my back. "And let me tell you, you have a very nice ass. You do not mind?" I felt myself blushing. "I guess I asked for it myself. It was very nice. You have a gentle touch, but please don't. Now, dance to our table. I need a drink." He smiled and squeezed my hand. "Very good." We sat down and John made us drinks. "I kind of lost you there for a while." I took a sip from the glass. "You don't have to watch me every second, John. Mike and I agreed that I wouldn't leave your sight for more than a few minutes. I'm safe here, and Justin is a true gentleman." Not today, I thought. As evening came, we became a little bolder. We mostly danced near the table, but moved away every few minutes. During the slow dance, he held me close to him, and I could rub a little against his hardness. Another time, he kissed my fingertips, and in response, I licked my lips and blew him a sensual kiss. One day when we were dancing a waltz, he looked at my cleavage for a long time and then blew softly on the tops of my breasts. Whenever we did something, we smiled and giggled like kids who got away with something. We never did anything more than quick, playful teasing, but I could tell we were both horny. Even when we weren't doing anything, I'd get excited, thinking about what I could do or fantasizing about what he might try. And I think knowing that was exciting for both of us. We danced, drank, and flirted for several hours when we sat down to catch our breath. I asked John, "How are the girls doing?" He laughed. "Great. I don't think they will come back." "Well, Cheryl, are you tired? When do you want to return home?" John and I danced several dances. It was fun, but I'm a little tired. Let's say another 15 minutes. Order. "Come on, Justin, let's not waste time." The perfect gentleman and I danced in front of our table, and then a slow dance started, and we danced in the crowd. He pulled me closer to him, then put his hand on my head and dropped it onto his shoulder. I smiled slyly and nuzzled his neck, then kissed him several times and bit him lightly. I felt his erection and pressed into it. "You're being very naughty," he breathed. "I just like that I can excite a man." "I'm counting on your promise about the word no." "Karen, you are beautiful. You can excite any man you want, But be careful, or you'll be too excited to say no. He warned and leaned down to kiss me passionately. Our tongues touched and I pulled away. We weren't that far from John. "Not here," I said. Justin bit my ear and whispered, "When you're ready to leave, tell John you'll walk me to the car. Tell him to set a timer for 5 minutes until you return. Then we can say goodbye properly and end a wonderful night with dignity." "Okay," I grinned and hugged him tightly. "Eventually, I have to give you back your panties. Maybe I can put them on you?" I laughed. "Don't know." We did another dance in front of our table when John went to check on the girls. Even though we behaved well, the tension between us was palpable. John returned and said, "The girls won't need my services as a driver." "Let's go too?" Justin came out with me. When we got to the door, I turned to John and said, "While you get the car, I'll walk Justin to his car. Cheryl, set the timer. If I'm not back in 5 minutes, send a search party. We can't let this scoundrel take advantage of me." "Hey," Justin protested. "Today I behaved well." Cheryl laughed. "No, I'll set a stopwatch. You'll have to explain every second to Mike." "Wonderful. Hold my purse and get started." She was fiddling with the phone in her hands. "Go." Justin and I ran into the parking lot, holding hands and laughing hysterically. Justin pulled out the remote to unlock the car and we ran. He opened the back door. "I won't get in your car," I said. "Just stay here, outside the door. It will be more private," he said. "Now, how about a kiss?" "Well, you definitely deserve a little reward for tonight," I purred. I smiled, hugged his neck and kissed him. Our lips parted and our tongues danced. He put his arm around my waist and hugged me tightly. His right hand slid to my ass and gently stroked it. Well, it's already happened, I thought. Then I felt his left hand lift my dress, and his right hand suddenly rested on my bare ass. I squirmed in the caress. All I could think about was how good I felt as he gently massaged me. His hand moved to her thigh and rubbed up and down teasingly. Somewhere in the fog of my mind, there was a feeling that I should do something, but I ignored it. I felt so good. This sensation, combined with the feeling of being wrong, sent tremors throughout my body. I felt my breathing become uneven and my heart pound as I moaned softly. Any thoughts I might have had disappeared as I moaned into his kiss. He held me while my body shook, but when I came to my senses, he carefully lowered me onto the edge of the back seat. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath of air. Then he leaned down again and kissed me tenderly. My eyes widened when I suddenly realized that I was already having sex with him. "Sorry for the rush, but we only have a few minutes left," he breathed. I gasped for air when I felt him put my panties back on. He pulled me to my feet and kissed me quickly. "Hurry up, the clock is ticking." "Oh God," I thought. "How long were we gone?" I ran and saw John driving up with the car. Cheryl touched the phone. "Not bad, 6:23. We don't have anything to tell Mike," she laughed. She looked at me. "God, Karen, you didn't have to run so hard. You're all red and out of breath." I climbed into the back seat and collapsed. We were halfway home when the fog began to clear. My God, what have I done? I cheated on Mike. How could Justin do this? But then I remembered that I agreed that he could take liberties with me, but would stop when I said no. Why didn't I say this? He even warned me that I might be too excited to remember. I got out of the car and saw Mike's car in the driveway. What should I do now? I walked through the door and saw Mike smiling at me. "I need to go to the toilet," I shouted and ran up the stairs. I took off my clothes and stuffed my wet panties deeper into the laundry basket. My dress was a little stained, but it wasn't noticeable. I'll take it to the dry cleaner tomorrow. I took a very thorough shower and used the handheld shower head to thoroughly wash everything out of my pussy. Since I slept naked, I left the bathroom like that. Mike was getting ready for bed himself. Mike smiled at me and said, "I just talked to John. He told me you had a really good time. I told you you don't need partners. Although apparently there was only one. You must be tired. Ready to go to bed?" I smiled and pushed away the guilt. "I'm tired," I must have danced for 3 hours. Yes, it happened with one guy. His name is Justin. He's a little older than us. I don't even know his last name. I don't know where he works and nothing about him at all. Well, except that he was a good dancer. But I'd rather be with you. The new dress you wore looks very cute. I laughed. Well, if you want to see this dress on me, you'll just have to ask me to dance. Okay, next time, I promise. This project is almost complete. Another week or so, and it will be over. And then I promise to take you with me. This will be a date. But now I'm very tired. Do you mind if we just go to bed? I'm tired too, I just got back. I love you, dear. I love you too, darling. Good night. Mike fell asleep immediately. I didn't sleep for a long time trying to comprehend this evening. I can't blame Justin. True, I told him that I was not going to cheat on my husband, but I didn't stop him. And when a man holds a seriously aroused woman in his arms, he takes everything she gives him. I have to admit, I had more fun than I've had in a long time. The thrill of disobedience, of dancing without underwear, the sexual excitement of all the touching, of being in the arms of a handsome stranger who was obviously attracted to me. Even the ending was impressive. But then there was a terrible roar when I realized what I had done. I decided that I could keep tonight as a pleasant memory and never betray Mike again. With this thought, I turned to Mike, stroked him gently, and fell asleep hugging him. 2 weeks later. Wow, honey. This dress suits you. No wonder you had no problems finding dance partners. I felt myself blushing. Thank you, Mike. But there was only one. Well, I'm sure you broke his heart when you came back to me. Let's go to? We got to the club. After drinking, he took me to the dance floor. As we danced, I thought back to the last time I was here and thought, my husband definitely deserves what I gave Justin. In the next slow dance, I pulled Meek towards me, kissed his neck and rubbed it against him. Meek smiled at me. You are terribly playful. Will I be lucky today? Absolutely right. Tonate and as often as you want for the rest of your life. We were sitting and sipping drinks when I heard a familiar voice. Karen, how nice to see you again. Will you introduce me to your husband? I felt my heart leap into my throat. Honey, this is Justin. The man I danced with 2 weeks ago when you couldn't come. Justin, this is my husband, Mike. Mike stood up and they shook hands. Thank you for taking care of Karen, he laughed. She told me that she had a lot of fun. She was afraid that she would not find partners. Oh, I don't think there was anything to fear. She is a wonderful woman and a great dancer. By the way, may I ask your permission to ask her to dance? Mike nodded and Justin extended his hand to me. Can I? I took his hand and he led me to the dance floor. While we danced, I tried to stay as far away as possible. He chuckled. Glad to hear you had fun. Are you very angry with me? I sighed. Yes, I'm a little upset, but I have to admit that you kept your word. You even warned me that I might forget to stop you. I'm much more angry at myself. I acted like a stupid schoolgirl, flirting with a stranger and then following him to his car. It's true that I had fun until the very end, but I really hate this ending. Yes, that was rather hasty, wasn't it? Sorry about that. However, those few minutes gave me one of the most intense, erotic experiences of my life. I smiled and relaxed a little. It was very stressful for me, too. Maybe we could meet again and see what we can do with more time. Let me say this right now before I forget. No. Karen, please. I know you liked it. In the end, you even lost consciousness. Tell me the truth, you enjoyed every minute. I blushed, thinking about it. Yes, Justin, I admit, it was great. I'm sure I'll remember this fondly for a long time to come, but this must never happen again. I love my husband and never want to hurt him. Well, I liked it so much that I left myself a souvenir. While you were unconscious, I managed to take a couple of pictures. They came out great. My new phone has a low light setting. I shot a close-up of your face and another shot that shows your whole body, with your dress around your waist. I don't think you noticed. You didn't open your eyes until I put your panties on. I became weak and stumbled, but he supported me and we continued our dance. Please, Justin, I sobbed. What are you going to do with them? Why don't you invite me over next week? I can show them to you and we can look at them and discuss it. Just talk? Well, I was hoping we could pick up where we left off. I could give you much better memories, or we could just show Mike the photos right now. My heart sank. Just once and you'll leave? Certainly. We just had so little time before, and sex shouldn't be so rushed. Don't you agree? We need to fix this. He handed me a handkerchief. Here, dry your eyes. We need to go back. Well, what should I do? I had no intention of having sex last time, and I still don't know how I let it get this far. This time I was going to let him use me. Can I trust Justin to keep his word? What would Mike do if he saw the photos? Did I have a choice? Wait, Justin doesn't know where I live. I'll just give him a fake address and try to never see him again. May God help me. Come to my house on Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I know where you live, Karen. I followed John's car and saw where he dropped you off. See you then. He took my hand and led me to our table. He brought my hand to his lips and kissed it tenderly. Here she is, Mike. Good as always. You are a very happy person. Get her on the dance floor before someone else grabs her and you lose her forever. Mike laughed and turned to me. I guess I'll do that. Shall we dance? The next few dances were a blur as my thoughts were far away. My God, he's coming on Tuesday. I have to be there. Otherwise he'll just come in the evening and talk to Mike. I realized that I knew what I had to do. I'll take a big risk, but I really have no choice. Then a slow song started playing, one of our favorites. I pulled Mike close and rested my head on his shoulder as we swayed to the music. When it was over, I kissed him deeply and whispered, I really need to make love to you. Of course, dear. I'll go get the car. No. I'll go with you, I said, and held his hand tightly all the way to the car. When we got home, I dragged him upstairs to the bedroom. Then I started unbuttoning his shirt. You, sir, have too many clothes on. Let me help you with this, I purred, pushing him onto the bed and taking everything off him. Well, now I think I'm wearing too many clothes. Play soft jazz. When the music started, I swayed sensually. Turning my back to him, I slowly unzipped the zipper. Turning around, I picked up the dress and slowly let it go until it fell to the floor. Mike looked completely exhausted. He looked at me and muttered, This is a miracle. Dancing tonight, we were as far apart as an old married couple. I remembered what young love is. That's why I pulled you to me and held you so tightly. I love you, honey. I wanted our lovemaking today to be truly special, just to show you how much, very much, I love you. Now please just hold me. We turned to put our heads back on the pillows, and I turned on my side, facing away. I pulled his hand towards me, squeezed it tightly, and felt his warmth on my back. It took a long time before I was able to fall asleep. Yes, I wanted to make tonight special, because I was afraid that this might be our last time. Hearing the doorbell ring, I winced and took a deep breath. This is it, I thought. Opened the door and let Justin in. Why, Karen, are you wearing a sweater and jeans? Didn't you dress for me? He said. Sorry, I don't know the dress code for blackmail, but before we do anything, I need to see these photos. Of course, my dear. I printed them out. They are copies. As you can see, they're pretty good. Your face is a perfect picture of bliss. I'm sure your husband, Mike, will find them very interesting. I looked at them. They were quite frank. Oh, you bastard! They could ruin my marriage. This is not necessary, but it is completely up to you. Just today, and I'll never see you again? Karen, don't be such a bore. No more than once a week, I promise. Who knows? Maybe someday you'll even start looking forward to it. You don't really have much choice, do you? He grabbed my sweatshirt and started pulling it off. As soon as the hem of my sweatshirt reached my bra, I hit it as hard as I could. Now, officers! I shouted. Justin froze as a policeman came through the door and another one emerged from the kitchen, holding handcuffs. Sir, please put your hands behind your back. You are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent." Justin stood there, his face ashen, as the policeman read him his rights. I looked at him angrily and said, "I don't have much choice. I pray that my marriage will survive at least one indiscretion, but he will never survive having me as your sex slave for the rest of my life." As one officer led him away, another turned to me and said, "Ma'am, can you come to the station and give a witness statement?" "Certainly. Could you take me there? I'm too shocked to drive, but I want to get this over with. Have you written everything down?" "Yes, ma'am. I don't think the DA will have a problem with this case. Are you ready to go?" As I headed to the station, I thought that this was actually the easy part. But how will I meet Mike? "Karen, I was just getting ready to go home. Are you okay?" "Not really, honey. Sorry to bother you at work, but on the way home, could you pick me up at the police station?" "Okay, let me think about this. Do I need to post bail for you?" I was so glad that Mike is a thoughtful, serious person. Many husbands would probably go crazy. I hope so tonight. "No, dear. I didn't do anything illegal. I'll explain everything tonight. Just pull up to the entrance. I'll be waiting outside. Give me 10 minutes. I love you. God, I hope this is enough. I love you too." Soon he arrives. I sit down and kiss him. Before he can say anything, I say, "I have a long story to tell that will go better after a drink." "Okay, dear, I see that you are very nervous. You are shaking like a leaf." I closed my eyes and tried to relax. "I'm fine. Just take us home." I got out of the car, ran to the kitchen, and made us our favorite drinks. I sat down on the couch next to Mike and took a long sip. I looked at Mike and said, "Honey, I love you very much. I know you love me, and I hope that's enough. But at the dance 2 weeks ago, I behaved very badly." I continued to tell him how I had come to give Justin my panties and the deal I had made with him that he could be a little rougher, but would stop if I said no. How we mostly danced where John and Cheryl could see us, but every few minutes we would dive into the crowd and do something naughty. "How indecent," Mike interrupted. "One time he squeezed my ass, and another time I could have slammed into him. Or he will quickly peck me on the lips and I will bury my nose in his neck." Something like that. Nothing we did lasted more than a few seconds. Then we giggled like school children who got away with something. But I have to admit, between all the flirting and dancing with a stranger who knew I wasn't wearing panties, I got seriously horny. And then I made my biggest mistake. During the last dance, he tried to really kiss me. I pushed him away and said, "Not here." "Was this your biggest mistake?" "Honey, I should have said no, but not here actually means yes." He suggested that when we were ready to go, I should walk him to the car and kiss him, and I didn't even think about refusing. In the end, I already agreed. Cheryl even timed it so I would be back in a few minutes. I had to stop to take a few breaths. I took Mike's hands and looked into his eyes. "Honey, I drank a little, but I wasn't drunk. But like I said, I was really excited. When we approached his car, he opened the back door. I refused to get into his car. Instead, I stood with my back to her while he kissed me passionately. When he caressed my ass, it felt really good. And when he somehow lifted my dress to fondle my bare ass, all I could think about was how great it felt. I knew deep down that I had to stop this. I went limp, and he lowered me onto the seat. Before I knew what happened, he started having sex with me. He didn't last more than a minute or two. The next thing I remember, he put my panties back on me and told me I had to come back. Cheryl said I was gone for a little over 6 minutes. In fact, I returned before John arrived in the car. "Honey, I'm really sorry. I didn't want this to happen, but that's no excuse. I should never have put myself in that position, and I swear I will never do it again." Mike looked at me for a long time, and I could hardly breathe. "Why didn't you tell me then?" I sobbed. "When I came home, I felt so guilty. I couldn't even look at you. I ran to the bathroom and tried to wash everything off. When I calmed down, I realized that it was useless to tell you. This would hurt you, and I knew I would never betray you again, no matter the cost. Justin didn't even know my last name. We'd never see him again." Mike looked gloomy. "And then we met him. When Justin came to our table, I thought I was going to die, but I couldn't refuse the dance. While we were dancing, he tried to convince me to see him again. Then he told me that I passed out for a minute after we had sex, and he took a photo of me like that. He threatened to show them to you if I didn't have sex with him at least once. Darling, I may have behaved very stupidly, but I'm not a fool. I realized that this would happen more than once. If I give in to him, he will hold me forever. There is only one way to deal with blackmail: the truth. I knew I had to tell you, but I also didn't want him to leave unscathed. So I told him to come here this afternoon. He already knew where we lived. He was following John's car. Yesterday, I went to the police and filed a complaint against him. The problem was that I didn't have hard evidence. Hell, I didn't even know his last name and didn't know how to find him. They set up an ambush. They waited in the house and recorded his threats. He will spend the next few years in prison. Mike stood up and began pacing around the room. He looked at me and said, "Karen, I admit that you did very well today, but you crossed the line the moment you gave him your panties and decided to let him touch you sexually. Isn't it clear? Oh dear, now I see." When the twins came up with the panty idea and tried to convince me to do it, I said no at first, but it just seemed so exciting. They are so young, and joining them made me feel young too. And I thought, really, what's wrong? It's just a piece of fabric. I, of course, had no intention of doing anything with him. When he suggested flirting a little, that was also exciting. From there, it was a series of tiny steps that added up to betrayal. I never wanted to betray you. I know I made a lot of bad decisions that night. I put myself in a position where I was unable to consciously make a choice. That's why I told you that saying "not here" was my biggest mistake. When I said that, I was essentially agreeing to go somewhere private to kiss him. Now I understand that as soon as I started kissing him, sex was inevitable. From that moment on, nothing depended on my consciousness. Please, dear, you have a wife who loves you and will never hurt you again. Please don't abandon her over a few hours of stupidity and 2 minutes in the back seat of a car. Mike thought for a long time while I waited nervously. Aren't you tempted to accept his offer? After all, he is a man who sexually excites you. Looks like you enjoyed the sex. You would just continue what you already started. I sobbed. God, no. I have no sexual interest in him. I enjoyed it while it was happening, but then I felt bad. Even if you kick me out, I will never touch him again. I admit, I thought about giving in to him, but if I could trust that it would be a one-time thing, and I could just get away with it and leave it all behind. But then I realized something. After that first time, I promised myself that I would never betray you again, no matter what. I realized that I had to refuse him, even at the cost of my marriage, or even the chance for future happiness. And in any case, this would happen more than once. Justin confirmed this today. I would be at his mercy until he got tired of me. Mike sat thoughtfully. I almost wanted him to yell at me. His disappointed look was much worse. Suppose you said no when he started kissing you during that last dance, or even went ahead and kissed him passionately right there and then just went home. Would you tell me about this? How would you feel when you met Justin again? I never thought about it. I don't know, I muttered. I'm hungry, he said. I'll go to Ralph's, sit in a booth, have a couple of beers and ribs and think carefully. Please think about my questions. I'll be back late. He left. I got up and wandered around the kitchen for a bit, then decided that I wasn't hungry, and just went to bed. Once in bed, I tried to understand what Mike meant with his questions. Suppose I had said no, or simply dragged him to the other side of the room, kissed him as I intended, and then gone home. Would I tell Mike that I gave a man my panties and let him rub my ass and breasts? That I nuzzled his neck, rubbed myself against his bare chest, and generally flirts outrageously with him for 3 hours? Hell no. I told myself that everything I did until the very end was just an innocent game, but since I had to keep it a secret from Mike, that obviously wasn't the case. I'd probably go home so horny that I'd drag Mike into bed, but I'd be thinking about Justin. How would I feel about Justin? He would become a treasured memory for me that I would look back on fondly from time to time. When I met him again at the dance, I couldn't wait to dance with him. I would like to thank him for a wonderful time. The feelings I had would come back. We wouldn't do much right there next to my husband, but I could let him dance with me in the crowd and playfully squeeze my butt, and I would smile and wink at him. Suppose he asked me to have lunch together sometime during the week. Would I agree? Maybe. Well, maybe. After all, it would be fun, I would be in public, and I knew I could trust him. What would lunch be like? I would certainly like to do more innocent flirting. After all, our entire relationship was based on flirting. I could only imagine it would just be lunch, so I would wear a skirt and blouse. Well, the skirt might be a little shorter than I usually wear, and the blouse might show a little more cleavage. Hell, I might even give him my panties again and tell him that it's a symbol of our deal. As long as I let him hold my panties, we can be frisky. But he'll never go beyond saying no. He would take me to a restaurant where we could sit in a booth. We would order drinks, and while we were waiting for them, he would put his hand on my knee and squeeze it, and maybe slide it up my thigh a few inches. There would be a lot of little touches and smiles as we looked into each other's eyes. As we ate, we both became bolder. I would accidentally lean over so he could look under my blouse, and his hand would slide a little higher up my thigh. When he drove me home, would I have invited him in? Maybe I would tell him it was just so I could kiss him goodbye without the neighbors seeing. Then he wouldn't even have to rush. We shared a long, slow, loving kiss, his hands wandering. If he had said something like, "I've been looking down your blouse all day. You have such beautiful breasts. Please, I have to see them." As he unbuttoned my blouse, I would let him. Very soon I would be naked and take him to the bedroom. Maybe not the first week, but if he was patient and we went out to dinner once a week, it wouldn't take that long. Oh my God. If Justin had been a little more patient the first night, I might have been on my way to having an affair with him. Then I would try to act natural with Mike, all the time dreaming about Justin and looking forward to our next date. I was overcome with guilt. A few hours later, I heard the front door knock and then Mike's footsteps walking up the stairs. I put on my robe and rushed to him. I saw that he was about to enter the guest room. I hugged him and sobbed. "Darling, please don't leave me. I was such a fool. I thought that my only big mistake was the slip of the tongue. But now I realized that everything I did then was a betrayal from the very beginning. I let a man seduce me for 3 hours. Hell, I even helped him seduce me. You were right. The problem was that I encouraged the man and allowed him to excite me sexually. If Justin hadn't pushed me too early, I probably would have started an affair with him. I promise I will never let this happen again. In fact, I will never do anything to anyone that I wouldn't do if you were there. Please give me one more chance." Mike sighed and hugged me, and I sobbed quietly. "Karen, this is exactly what I wanted to hear from you. But you had to figure it out yourself. You regretted having sex, but you dismissed flirting as just fun. I wanted you to see that by allowing Justin to turn you on to this extent, you had destroyed your defenses. That's why he had no problem having sex with you, and wouldn't have any problems later, even if he didn't succeed that night. Actually, I'm surprised that Justin resorted to blackmail. If he spent a couple of dances reminiscing about how much he liked to flirt, he might get you to accept an invitation to dinner. After all, at the time you thought the only mistake was to go somewhere private. You could get even more frisky when no one you knew was watching, and even more so in the semi-privacy of his car as he drove you home. I doubt you could resist inviting him in. I started crying even harder. "Yes, Mike, I already understood that. Please, honey," I begged. "Let's go to bed. I really, really need to feel you today. I'm so scared." "Okay, Karen. Today I won't leave you alone. But I'm not sure about tomorrow." That night, as we lay in bed, I held him tightly, as if he might disappear if I let him go. Justin pleaded not guilty. He decided that I would be too embarrassed to testify in open court and reveal my infidelity. But with Mike's support, I was able to withstand cross-examination and looked him in the eyes, when he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. There was tension between Mike and me for a long time. Over the next few weeks, we had many difficult conversations, and he spent many nights in the guest room. Gradually, I managed to convince him that I understood everything. I promised him that I would never keep secrets from him, and that the best way to do that was to make sure I never had to. He had a lot of anger and pain, but I was patient and loving, and he began to trust me again. When we finally made love, it was so intense. I wish I could say I gave him as good an experience as the last time, but I was too overwhelmed with emotion. I sobbed into his shoulder, and a long time passed before I was able to let him go. I think our marriage is stronger now, but I have one secret from Mike. Every now and then, if Mike is feeling in love and I'm not really in the mood, I think about the night I danced with Justin and the excitement I got from our flirting. And then my thoughts return to sex. There is something primal about a man taking a woman in this way, not through physical force, but through the force of his will and her lust. I remember how I felt giving myself to him without thinking about any consequences, just lost in the moment of passion. And those feelings come back. I feel myself getting aroused. I focus on Mike, and we have great sex every time. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.